Behavior trees are way better than finite state machines. They have absolutely no flaws whatsoever, and if you're still using FSMs in your game, then you should stop right now and replace everything with a behavior tree. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Wait a second. The video is still not over. Is it really true that behavior trees are better than finite state machines? Well, not exactly. There is a great GGC talk about this called Proper Cultivation and Care for Your Behavior Trees. I've already covered this talk in a previous video in my first Introduction to Game AI playlist. This is a talk from a bunch of developers working on famous games like the Batman series and developers from Remedy Entertainment. And here Bobby Angulov talks about advantages of finite state machines over behavior trees. And it is true. In a finite state machine, you have these simple states and you can execute some code when you enter a state, when you exit a state. And in behavior trees, we kind of lack that functionality. So far in our behavior trees for our villagers, we have a sleeping branch, we have working branches, but we're not handling what happens when we exit a branch, and this results in what you're seeing on the screen right now. This is actually a separate branch of the project where I'm experimenting with zombies and combat behaviors. Villagers that are sleeping will escape from zombies even when they're lying on the floor, which is a little bit ridiculous. We have to handle exiting the sleeping branch properly, and the best way to do this is to create a custom decorator in Behavior Designer Pro. If we go back to the documentation of Behavior Designer Pro, the developer makes a great case about why you should perhaps prioritize behavior trees over finite state machines because of all the drawbacks that they talk about here, especially this, because in a finite state machine, the problem that you're going to encounter are too many transitions. You have to keep track of them. There are some systems like HFSMs or hierarchical finite state machines that limit somewhat the amount of transitions, but in a complex system where you want your NPCs to be reactive, you're going to more or less get a ton of these transitions that you'll have to take care of. Behavior trees are great because with this simple structure, you can manage a lot of things. But the problem with behavior trees is these small details, like when you go out of a state or a branch on the behavior tree, we don't really have a way to know that this has happened. But there are ways to bridge the gap between behavior trees and FSMs and use the power of behavior trees with some of the smaller features that are also powerful in FSMs and that we don't have access to on behavior trees. So I was thinking about the best solution that we could implement, and there are many solutions. If we go back to a behavior tree on our peasant, here what we can do is create an action to reset the character and have this action as the first action in each branch. So whenever we go out of this branch to another branch, we would have an action here, and this action could like drop any item that the character is carrying. It could reset the animations and do all of that, but this is not an elegant solution. What's better is to create a decorator on top of this selector. We could add a decorator here. So if we right click, create node, we have the possibility to create decorators, and we have a lot of built-in decorators, but we can also create a custom decorator, and we're going to see it shortly. But we don't have to do so all the time. We have some solutions that are really great. We have the conditional evaluator, which is a great decorator. Here you can select a task that will be your conditional. This could be useful for the say action. This will print a text on a speech bubble, and we gave it a probability field. Instead of doing this, we could use a conditional evaluator like so and attach it to our say action. Then here what we can do is for the task, let's select the shared random probability. This is also a built-in conditional. So the documentation is still lacking here, but I went into the code of random probability, and here we have the success probability, which is set to 1 in the reset method. And here we're comparing it with a random number generator, which is of type unity.mathematics.random. We're comparing the probability value with this RNG next float, which from the Unity documentation, we can see that it returns a value between 0 and 1. All of this to just to understand how it works. But you can also use your own conditionals here. You're not limited to the ones provided by Opsiv. But in any case, our probability slider here could have been implemented with this decorator. In my first playlist, the Introduction to Game AI playlist, we create a random chance decorator. Here you don't have to create it. You can simply use this conditional evaluator with a conditional here. Now back to the main branch of our project. If we click on a worker, then go to the prefab, then open the behavior tree of the worker. Here we have the hole-in branch and the sleep-in branch. And when we go out of hole-in, we are dropping an item here in the sleep-in branch and also dropping it in the, let's say this is the idle branch. This works, but it's a little bit sloppy. We want something more robust to handle this. So let's go into the hole-in subtree. And here we can add a decorator up here. And thanks to that decorator, we will have access to an on, start, and on end methods where we can write anything that happens when we enter the hole-in branch and when we exit it. This is analogous to handling on entry and on exit in a finite state machine. Okay, let's write a custom decorator. The way I used to create such tasks in the first behavior designer is I would go into the code of the built-in decorators and get an idea of how they implemented it, because after all, these are the official tasks provided by Opsiv, except that now we have two ways of writing these tasks. We have the simple game object way, then we have the ECS way. For our purposes right now, we just want the simple way. So the simple way is to derive from decorator node, and the best example of this is the conditional evaluator. If we go into the source code of this task, here you can ignore this mtask field. This is specific to this particular task, but the rest is still valid. We need to derive from decorator node. Then we have access to on start and on end. But here's the thing. We have to override the on update method. This is mandatory. And here we need to access the status of the child task using this code. And then if the status of the child is a success or a failure, we return it. Otherwise, we return the running status. Doing all of this is very important, and I made sure of that by contacting Justin, the developer of Behavior Designer Pro. So I asked him, how do I implement a decorator in BD Pro? I know I can derive from decorator node, but are there other things I should be aware of? Then I asked how to implement a random chance decorator like the one found in Unreal Engine. This is exactly the one that I created in my first playlist, where we created a custom behavior tree system. And I said, in the end, you're providing a lot of editor-friendly solutions like conditional evaluator decorators, which removes the need to even write custom decorators. I've been exploring this alternative, which is great, but it would still be useful to know how to write a custom decorator. And his response was that indeed you need to override the onUpdate method, and you need to write this code, which is the same code found in the conditional decorator that we've just seen. And by doing this, you will have a vanilla decorator that doesn't do anything. Because the problem is, if you don't override the onUpdate method, the decorator node inherits from task, and its onUpdate method always returns the success status. So indeed, what you're going to do is you're going to create a decorator that will always return success no matter what the child is doing. And in fact, it will even skip the execution of the child task, in which case, why even bother creating such useless decorator? Okay, in our code, let's go ahead and create our decorator. What I'm going to do here in my tasks folder, I'm going to create a new folder called base. Then I'm going to create a new decorator that I'm going to use as a base class for all my other decorators. I'm going to call it pawn decorator, and here let's add all the necessary namespaces. Let's go to the conditional evaluator task, and I'm going to just copy these namespaces and paste them here. Then I'm going to derive from decorator node, and for this we need to use this namespace that ends with tasks.decorators. Then let's implement on start and on end. We can keep them empty, that's okay. Then let's implement our on update method, and for this what we're going to do is I'm going to go into the conditional evaluator script, and I'm going to copy this and paste it here. Let's override the on update method, and I'm going to paste this code. Then I'm going to create another method. I'm going to call it get get child status, and it will return a task status. Then I'm going to copy or cut this code and have it inside of the method. By the way, you don't have to understand what this is doing. The main thing it does is it gets us the status of the child. So we're using mBehaviorTree with a word object, then entity manager, then we're getting a buffer of type task component with mBehaviorTree.entity. Then we're returning task components at runtime index +1. This is the child task. Then we're returning the status property of that task. Honestly, I don't exactly have an idea of what this does. This is how BD Pro works, and it's actually documented in the ECS section of the documentation. But in any case, we're going to use this as a black box. In the onUpdate method, we're going to say var child status equals get child status, and if the child status is success or failure, we're going to return it. Otherwise, we're going to return the running status. And I confirmed this with Justin. It's important to do it like this because the task status, if you control click on it, it's an enum with a lot more states. If you just return the status of the child, you may be returning inactive or queued, which will break the functionality of your decorator, and indeed it will be useless. It will not even execute the child. Okay, back to our pawn decorator. Okay, now we're done. This is technically a working decorator that doesn't do anything. Let's add a reference to our pawn. Then let's add an onAwake method. And here we're going to say pawn, get component in parent. And let's go into our pawn script. Here on our pawn script, we already have a reference to an animator and a navmesh agent, but they're not public, so we can't access them from the tasks. Let's fix that. Let's make them a public property, and I'm just going to rename the variables to have capital letters, and perhaps we also need a reference to the worker. Let's say protected worker. This is where we implemented our hauling mechanics and our overall working mechanics for the villagers, so it's useful to also have a reference to that. Let's also use game object and get the component in the parent, and I'm getting the component in the parent because the behavior tree could be on a child object of the pawn object. So doing it like this will cover a lot more cases. And since this is in the onAwake method, it will only be called the first time when the behavior tree is initialized. It will not be called every time you enter a task, as opposed to onStart and onEnd, because for these methods, they will be called every time the behavior tree enters this decorator and exits it. And the great thing about onEnd is it will be called even when the branch under the decorator has been interrupted, which is honestly the main feature that we're interested in. All right, with that, let's go back to our folder and let's create a new folder here. Let's call it Decorators. Let's create a decorator sleep branch, and from our pawn decorator, we can just go ahead and copy all of these usings. In fact, we don't need them all. We need runtime and tasks perhaps, and that's about it. Okay, let's derive from pawn decorator, and here what we're going to do is override the onStart and onEnd. Okay, let's go back to our sleep subtree. Here, let's remove this conditional evaluator. Then let's add our decorator here, create task, decorators. Then let's look for our sleep branch and let's rewire the sleep branch here and connect it with the start node. Then let's connect the selector here. Okay, great. Let's see what we're doing here in the sleep branch. We have find and reserve bed. In case we have reserved a bed and we're interrupted on the way there, we need to release the reservation. Otherwise, perhaps your NPC will get into a fight and perhaps they will get knocked out or even killed. So in this case, the villagers will not be able to use that bed, even though it belongs to someone who is no longer with them, which is also ridiculous. As soon as we end this branch, we need to release any beds that we have. Okay, so first thing, release all beds. Second thing, we need to disable these effects. We have the sleep effects where you have the Z letters going up. Then we have the sleep emoji. Then we have the boolean that we set on the animation. On the animator, we set in sleep to true. Okay, back to our script. Let's say pawn dot release bed, then pawn animator set boolean sleep to false. Then let's say set sleep effects active to false, then set going to bed effects active to false. That way we reset the state of our villager whenever they go out of the sleeping branch. Okay, now let's close this subtree and let's go to whole items subtree, and let's look at the subtree. If we add a whole in branch decorator here, we have find and reserve closest item. So perhaps we have reserved an item, but halfway through we get interrupted, so we need to unreserve the item. We are carrying an item at some point. Indeed, we need to drop any item we carry as soon as we go out of this branch. So basically two things that we need to do. Let's go to the worker script in the drop item method. If we do have an item, we are unreserving that item, then we're setting its rigid body to dynamic in order for the item to fall on the floor. Then we're resetting these variables. So indeed, we are releasing the item in case it was reserved, in addition to dropping it. So using this method is enough to drop and unreserve any item that we're currently carrying or going to. Okay, let's go back to our decorators folder and let's create a whole in branch decorator. And here I'm going to just copy the sleep branch and paste it here. Then let's rename it to whole in branch. We don't really need to implement the onStart method. And by the way, one important thing that I forgot to mention is don't override the onStarted method. This is actually a deprecated method that has been replaced by onBehaviorTreeStarted, and this used to be called whenever the whole behavior tree would start. And you can understand why Opsiv has renamed it to onBehaviorTreeStarted, because it's confusing to have both onStart and onStarted. It doesn't really make sense. Let's write our code here. Let's remove this. All we're going to do is worker.drop item, and that's it. That's all we need to do. Now back to our whole in subtree. Here, let's add our decorator. Let's hit space, then decorators, then whole in branch, and let's rewire this, and that's it. Now we have a decorator above our whole in branch. We can go ahead and close this. Now let's go back to our workers behavior tree. We have a lot of things that we no longer need to do. For example, here we no longer need to call drop item in the sleeping branch, and we no longer need to call it here either. Now we can see the power of decorators. They allow us to implement this functionality quite easily, and overall it makes our behavior tree more compact and pretty, which is important. You have to always ask yourself whether your behavior tree is too complex, and perhaps I'll make some videos on how to simplify behavior trees. And now if we go back to our project and run the game, you can see that the haulers are doing their job and the other workers are also doing their job. If we go into the behavior tree of any worker, we can see here that we have our decorators above the sleeping branch and above the whole in branch, and they're indeed allowing the child object, which is this sequence here, to run and will only end when the child has ended. So indeed our decorator is working great, and our behavior tree is overall simpler to read, which is, as I said, really important. You don't want your behavior tree to be cluttered. Okay, great. Thank you for watching. I hope you took a lot of value out of this episode, and please post your suggestions below in the comments about some extra content that you want to see in this series, content that perhaps is not part of the main purpose of the series, but that you think would benefit you in your project. Perhaps something you saw in RimWorld or in Kenshi or in other colony management games and you want me to talk about it. All right, thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.